Hey Sarah, how you doing today?
Hey Mike, good. How are you?
Before we start, I have to ask you what you think of what I'm wearing, because in the past you've told me you've commented on some of the clothes I wear that it's not age appropriate. So
Me have an opinion? What?
I have a pullover here. I don't know if you can
Huh?
see it.
You have a Henley. It's in a gray color. It looks great on you. We actually are wearing very similar kind of combinations. It's the layered Henley look, which I really like for Zoom meetings and all of this like video conferencing, some layering. So you've done a great job.
Cool, thanks. All right, so
I give you a solid A.
before we hop into the interview, can you give me just a little bit of background about yourself, like where you're from, where you're raised, maybe,
Yeah,
college, that kind of thing?
born and raised in Portland, Oregon. I grew up in Lake Oswego, and then went to Canby High School my freshman year in high school. So I graduated from Canby High School, and then from there I went to Oregon State, and I did Oregon State because they had the apparel interiors, the AIM program, merchandising and design, I think. Or that's not AIM, but I did the AIM program there. And I graduated Oregon State with a merchandising management degree.
So you knew going into college what it is, you kind of had an idea what you wanted to do?
I've always known what I wanted to do. Can you see that? I hope I didn't. I've always known what I wanted to do. Okay. I just have to tell you, I have children who are staring at me right now. So this is real life at home. Dog, kids, everything is right behind this camera. So if I seem a little distracted, forgive me. I remember having to pay my sister to play Barbie dolls with me. And I never like had any kind of theme or, there was no storyline. All I just wanted to do was dress the Barbies up. And then like, as soon as they were dressed up, it would be like 2 minutes on a date and it'd be like, okay, now we're going to go do this so I could change the Barbie's outfit again. So my sister was like, it was the easiest 5 cents I ever made because all I had to do was like stand there with Ken while I just like changed outfits the whole time. So I've always, always, always loved clothing and fashion and outfits. But it was in college when the girls would get together in the sorority and like we get ready for parties. I was always the last to be ready because I would be running around to everybody's rooms, like helping everyone get dressed. And it was then that I was like, okay, this is something. And I didn't know exactly what it was. But it was really, that's really my love, was dressing people and making them feel really good. And kind of, you could just see that confidence in their face when they were like, oh yeah, like I'm killing it tonight. And then I was in merchandising and I kept failing all of my math classes, like failing over and over and over again. Like I realized that merchandising was probably not part of my future. So, and that was, it was a little late. It was like, my 4th year in college that I realized this, but I got really lucky. And the summer after I graduated, my parents were golfing with this gentleman, or they bumped into him on the golf course, and he happened to work for Nike, and he happened to know of a position, opening position that was available at Nike. And I had happened to just get a degree, and he got me an interview and I got the job. So I got a job at Nike right out of school. I was very, very lucky.
Now, that was the merchandising?
It was for, I was a product tester. So I think it was called a product tester, and I would measure all of the samples that would come out of whatever department it is. Would you like to say hi?
Hi.
What's happening?
Okay, so I told you mommy's on a meeting.
I know, it's just on. I'm just letting you know, Olin couldn't come over because apparently it's going to rain even though it looks very sunny outside.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it later, okay?
Okay.
All right, love you.
Yeah.
No boundaries, Mike. There's just no boundaries.
That's all right.
So, yeah, what were you asking me?
I was asking you the job at Nike, if it was merchandising.
Yeah, so I would intake all of the samples. I would measure them. I would have to make sure they measured within a certain parameter. I set up fit model meetings. It was a lot of measuring, I remember, which I thought was kind of ironic because the measuring part I could do pretty well. It was the mathematics I didn't enjoy, but I really got a great perspective on Nike and the backside of the fashion industry because I was working with developers and designers. And really you were working with the development of the garments. So that was incredibly fascinating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Were you doing any sort of the personalized work that you're doing now? Were you doing that then?
No, I was not getting paid for it. I mean, friends would always ask me to come over and go shopping. And I mean, I always did that stuff for fun. So no, I was at Nike for 6 years. I ended up as a project manager in sports marketing. So it was called the GPS department then, Global Promotion Services. And I worked with sports marketing representatives who obviously represented the athletes and also just anybody who was sponsored by Nike. And we would get them like special materials. Like a lot of them had basketball camps and certain things like that. So I was a manager of a team that would implement all of those kinds of projects for the athletes and for the famous people, which was it was interesting, but it was not work that like fed my soul. And to be honest with you, I was so young. I mean, I was 25 then, and I was a manager, and I was managing people that were twice my age. And Nike has a way of running things. And there was a certain way I was told to run the projects. And I just would see so many inefficiencies, and I would try to change them. And then I was told often I would get in trouble a lot for trying to walk outside the boundaries of what was expected of me. And I, kept having to go back and like do it the Nike way. And there was something about being so young and so passionate about what I do or what I love that I couldn't do it anymore. And honestly, my kids are fighting upstairs. I'm sorry for this. Could you please help me? What was I gonna say? So,
You're talking about stepping outside the boundaries.
I got depressed. I was really, really unhappy. And I went through a period where I was really depressed. And it got to a point, I had just met my husband and we had moved in. I just met my husband now, but had just moved in together. And I was so miserable. I remember I woke up one day and I just told him, I was like, I have my review today. If I quit, are we going to be okay? And he was 100% supportive. He was like, I think this is what you need to do. You need to quit. We need to close the store and then figure out what you want to do next. And I walked in and I had my review that day and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I turned in my notice and 2 weeks later I left. And I literally had an existential like midlife crisis at 28. I had no idea what I was going to do. Everybody was telling me like, you were out of your mind. You just left Nike. Like, why would you leave Nike? How would you leave Nike? I don't even think my parents could speak to me for like weeks. They were so upset. And I don't know, I had this faith that there was something else bigger and better and brighter out there for me. So I sat around and watched TV a lot then. And Oprah was doing the makeover shows. And there was an Oprah makeover show. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could do this. Like, I know I could do makeovers. I do it every day and I loved it. I could just start charging people instead of just doing it for free. And like, if my friend calls me up and she wants me to take her shopping, well, I'll do it, but I'll do it. I did it for like $45 an hour back then. And that was 2003, I think I started. So I just kind of like started doing that. And then I advertised in the Oregonian and I just started reaching out. Like I remember I would do free seminars at the Coliseum and people would have to sign up and I would get like 20 women and it was just a free seminar to explain like what the fundamentals of personal style was. But really back then, Mike, nobody had done this before. Nobody was doing makeovers. There was no personal stylists in Portland. I remember there was one girl who was kind of doing it. And I remember going to her seminar and I was like, oh, she had a totally different vibe than I did. And, but you had to educate people. You had to let people know like what was going on and that I knew my stuff. Cause a lot of people are going to be like, oh, yes, you can dress people, but I understood the fundamentals of what what works on bodies. I call myself a body type expert. So you kind of have to gain people's trust. And in doing that, I would gain clients. And then, I built a reputation, and yeah, I mean, here we are. I'm going on 18 years. That's crazy. I hadn't done the math for a while.
It's exciting. I mean, you said a lot of interesting things. I mean, one being, that you felt unfulfilled at the job at Nike, and you got the green light from your husband to say, yeah, stop doing that, move into something else. Like that's
without
really,
even knowing what that was.
Yeah, without knowing, but just having faith that it was going to work out.
I really can't explain that faith, but I have had conversations with people who also get the chance to do what they were put on this earth to do as a career. And there's something about just knowing you're really good at something and that's your calling. There's a blind faith that happens that I always tell people to try and follow as much as you possibly can.
Well, it's pretty cool that you have known this since you were a small child, that you were, at least that you were interested.
Yes. I mean, that's really, I tell my kids that too. I feel really fortunate that I knew young what I wanted to do, but there was also that journey I had to take to figure out what I'm good at, what I want, and, like what I'm passionate about. And it was interesting to find that I was not as passionate about fashion in the way that I thought I was going to be, or really what society was saying, like, well, you might be interested in fashion, but here's Nike and that's a good job and you should stick with it. Like I just was drawn to what I do now, which is I call myself a personal style coach, because it's not just dressing people, it's understanding who the person is and connecting their fashion and what they wear to who they are and what they want in life. And, and then creating that wonderful equation that works right for them and their body type, not anybody else.
And you mentioned all your friends were saying, oh, stay at Nike. I think maybe myself, I mean, I would have followed that, probably taken that safe path.
It's the easier path for sure. It was the easier path, but I have to tell you, I was so unhappy. I don't make the money that I made then, or would probably, 17 years with Nike, or right now, gosh, it would have been over 20 years. I would probably be going on almost 30 years with Nike, but I'm so much happier. I really, really love what I do. And what I do really makes a difference in people's lives. And it that feeds my soul, which is more important to me than that safety, to be honest with you. And I mean, here I've been through a recession, and now I'm going through this pandemic. So my business has suffered, and it's been very, very challenging, but I still stick with it. There's no other choice for me.
Right. So you mentioned the sort of the moment when you were watching Oprah that you realized you're like, oh, I can do this. I'm curious, what happened when those friends that you used to go shopping with for fun and for free, you said, hey, guess what? You have to pay me now.
You know what's fascinating is I was terrified. It's one thing to, do what you love, but it's another to ask people to start paying you for it. I felt it was that, what is that? Like, imposter syndrome. Like I felt like I kind of had that. And I was amazed at the response. People were so willing, 100% willing to pay me whatever it was, without question, without anything, 100% support. And I found that to be true even going forward in all the years of my business. Is every time my business grows, or I understand that I have leveled up in my career and I need to ask to be compensated for that, there's always this moment where it's like, oh man, I just don't know if people will still call. And man, right. I mean, people call, and it's validating for sure.
I was going to say, I bet it is very validating to have that trepidation, and then people just be like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yep, it is. It really is. I feel really fortunate.
So do you remember, you said you were doing the sort of the freebie instructional things at the Memorial Coliseum.
I did a lot of those, and a lot of I would go into women's like women's groups and talk to them about, you know, what I do. And I mean, there was a lot of legwork and a lot of not getting paid, you know, for things that I was offering in the first 5 years. Like there was a lot of just educating people and letting people know what I do. And, you know, in each one of those meetings, I would get a client or two, and it just kind of built upon that. Now I don't get out of bed for, unless you're going to pay me.
Right.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's a complete flip. You know, when we're starting out, we're doing stuff, we're giving things away in hopes that we can attract some customers and to build a resume. And then when you build your customers up to a certain amount, it's like, okay, I don't have to be so aggressive with my marketing anymore.
It's true. And also, I mean, I have 17 years of experience underneath my belt of working with every type of person, men, women, and everything in between. Trust me, 17 years, I think I've seen it all, and worked with so many different kinds of people in different stages of their life, that I'm truly, and I'm confident to say I'm an expert. So, you know, that's where you get to the point where, I mean, I have my sons are 10 and 13, and I really get to dictate my hours. I also get to dictate who I work with, because I choose to work with people. I don't work for people. And there are some people who want to hire me and have me work for them.
Right.
And I spent years working for people, and, you know, you had to do it because you were growing your business. But now my business has grown to a point where I can choose who I work with and who I don't work with. And I like to work with people.
It's a good place to be, isn't it?
It is. It's really, I mean, even during a pandemic, it's a blessing. I still can choose and not choose, you know, who I want to work with. There's no desperation.
Talk about working with women versus working with men.
Gosh. Men, there is a difference. Men are so much more, you guys are so much more just about things have to be comfortable on your body, and they have to feel good. And then you guys want them to look really good. So oftentimes you guys know, I mean, and most often men can decipher like when something doesn't feel good. But they usually want help with like, yes, this looks good. And like coordinating an entire outfit. Some men tend to be a lot more opinionated and their boundaries a lot tighter than some women. Yeah. But I have female clients who will come to me and be like, okay, I will only wear solids. I won't wear buttons. I hate zippers. I won't wear a collar. I, you know, love wool, but hate cashmere. I mean, their list of like likes and dislikes is kind of bananas. So that can be really interesting. I like when people, I'm kind of like a counselor where like, I like to learn people's lifestyles and what their likes and their dislikes and what feels good, and how it's going to correlate with their life and their work. But it's really interesting when you get those people that just have all of these rules, and some of them have become my lifelong clients, and we laugh and giggle about it because I'll slide in a button or a zipper here and there. And it'll be something that they absolutely love and wear all the time. And we can giggle about it now.
They thought they didn't like it, but you showed them the way.
You know, it's all about just gaining trust for people, you know, like, I mean, there's two women that pop out in my head that have been with me since the beginning. And they both were just they fought me so much in the beginning. And you just have to like gently coax them, you know, in the right direction. And now it's like, they just tell me what to wear and I'll wear it. And it just took a long time to kind of gain their trust. And also, I mean, they have become they've become my muse. Like they are so fashionable and so stylish and so like, every time I see them, I'm making sure that I'm put together head to toe, because I mean, they can put me to shame some days.
Well,
but that's what, you know, Mike, what I love is the education, is the teaching people. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I really, it's like I get to teach and counsel using fashion as a tool. That's really kind of, that's what I do.
Yeah. Well, you said you're making lifelong relationships. And what I've always thought was kind of interesting is that, you know, what you're doing for self-esteem.
Yes.
You know, if someone doesn't have like the perfect rock star body, you can still make them look good.
Well, I really believe that every person is beautiful. And it's, I call it empowerment. Like you use clothing as an empowerment. I like my clients to not have to think about what they're wearing, and that what they wear automatically makes them feel more like themselves, so they can just shine themselves even brighter. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to change who my clients are. I want to just have what they wear represent that so much that they're not worried about what they're wearing. They feel great. Their clothing has empowered them to just be their best selves. You and I both know that when we're wearing the right things and we're really feeling ourselves, you're not thinking about what you're wearing. You're thinking like, I'm awesome. Like I can go out and I can take on the world and do whatever I want. Right?
Yeah, you feel good.
Yeah.
I love this Henley or whatever it is, because I feel like, wow, it fits me in the shoulders, which is rare for me.
Yeah.
And it's comfortable, and it's kind of sort of speaks to my personality.
Yes. And it's a good color. People, men especially, do not understand or take into account how impactful color is, because you guys don't get to wear makeup. So color is going to influence what colors pop out in your skin tones and your eye, and it can make you look tired. It can make you look invigorated. Color it's just incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Well, that's why you don't see me wearing red and orange. I know I don't look good in those colors.
No, you don't. No. Thank you.
Cool. So
do you even like those colors? Are you drawn to those colors at all?
What, red and orange?
Mm-hmm.
On other people, not on me so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say most men are drawn to colors. They can be drawn to the colors that complement them. But for men, like, it's not, you guys are only offered like blue and green and plaid and brown and charcoal. There's not a lot of colors, offered out there unless it's something really loud. But I love seeing a man in a great purple or a pink shirt or, a statement tie or fun socks. There's certain ways that men can really kind of show their personal style in their own kind of unique way.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming down the home stretch here, what are you sort of excited about, like moving into the future?
Oh, well, I'm really excited to get back into the stores and get shopping again. I personally, I have seen boutiques and small businesses go out of business and not be able to make it through the pandemic, which is really heartbreaking for me because, like I said, I went through the recession, and I know that we will come back and we will bounce back in strides. It's just some people can't hold on through, a certain period of time. They have to make their mortgages and feed their families. And I understand that. So it's been really sad to see some of the boutiques have to go under. I'm 100% committed that as soon as we can get back to being in-person shopping, that I can get out and support the local businesses. I really, really want to push for that. I do a lot of mall shopping with my clients to start off with, because we really have to build a foundation. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to do my very best to try and do that within the boutiques as much as I possibly can, because those guys had my back, and I want to have theirs for sure. What
about a younger Sara who's maybe coming out of college? They're interested in doing what you do. Would you consider being a mentor to someone?
Yes, 100%. I have been asked that throughout my career, and I've never been in a position where I had the ability to kind of give somebody my time and my expertise. So yes, I 100% would love an opportunity to be able to mentor people. Even I love talking to high schoolers. I love setting them up at the high school age and teaching them kind of how this works to kind of set them up for the future. Because I will say, my path was my path, and going to college was important for me, but I don't think I would have had to go to college and have that debt in order to do what I do, if that makes sense. So yeah, I wouldn't discourage somebody from going to college, but I would definitely want them to figure out, like, take business classes or major in business in college rather than merchandising, unless they want to go in and be a merchandiser at a big store. Then I would lead them in a different direction. So yes, I'm 100% down for that. I would love to give back. I am in a place where I can now do that. Before I was raising kids and started and like running this business. And after the recession, my business just went nuts, and have been working so hard. And so now as of a few years ago, I've now in a position where I can kind of step back and be able to mentor a person or two. I'd like to figure out like how that would look and how I can do that. That would be, I think that's a great suggestion, Mike, for me to put into my business plan for the next 5 years, and how I can really maybe find a specific corner where I can start mentoring other girls. I don't want employees. I've never wanted employees. I don't like the drama, and I don't like the overhead. So that's not really something I'm interested in with my business, but to give back and help inspire other stylists. Because now, I mean, in Portland, there's a solid 5 of us that are really successful at what we do. So that's encouraging, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's nice to come from that place of abundance rather than the place of scarcity too.
Yeah, it is. But I worked really hard.
Yes.
Really, really, really hard. It was not easy. There were lean times. There were lean Christmases. But I just am pretty stubborn, and I just persevering. I mean, Mike, you've known me for a really long time. Like, perseverance is just part of my DNA. I don't know how not to.
Great. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Sarah. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.